We've been really targeting some of these key applications where we're an enabling technology, things like solid state circuit breakers for utility and industrial products. We actually now have engaged with our third Fortune 500 global company that's focused on things like bringing circuit breakers and circuit protection to the marketplace. And they need a very efficient semiconductor technology to make that work. And we actually fit that bill really well.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Dan Brdar. He is the CEO of Ideal Power. And Dan, it's great to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well, Steve. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, the company out with your highlights of the first quarter for 2025. And overall, I think you're fairly happy with what you're seeing in the first quarter, Dan.
Yeah, we're getting great traction with our customers. We're seeing programs expand, and we're actually starting to see the adoption of our technology for some pretty important markets.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those wins that you had in the first quarter as pretty substantial ones as you move forward.
Yeah, we have a design win with a company that is one of the largest providers of solid state circuit breakers for Asia, and they've incorporated our technology in place of some silicon carbide devices that they were using, and we were able to show them that it was a 60% reduction in losses by using our technology instead of the silicon carbide MOSFETs. We completed that work about 3 months ahead of schedule, shipped it off to them. They started their testing. They've asked us to make a couple of changes to incorporate some features they're looking for, but we're off to a great start with them. That will ultimately be a circuit breaker that gets sold into the market later this year, and will hopefully be the first of many products with them and with other circuit breaker manufacturers.
You had some really positive feedback from Stellantis, and in fact, so much so that you're going to be launching for electric vehicles as well. So obviously, they're positive on what you're telling them.
Yeah, we had this program with them for their drivetrain. We've been through the first couple of phases of that. We've done really well there. So that program is going to continue, but they are also needing a solid state electric vehicle contactor. This is what protects the batteries from any faults that develop in the electric vehicle to keep from damaging the battery or the circuitry, electronic components. And they had a program they were doing that they were not satisfied with, and we talked to them about using our technology, and they loved the idea. So the internal approval has already been completed on the technology side, so we're just waiting to get through that process of issuing the purchase order, and we'll now be engaged in our second program with one of the world's largest automakers.
And I should mention, Dan, that a lot of the work that you're doing is really ahead of schedule, and that's something you noted in the news release, is the fact that the company's timelines have really been accelerated.
Yeah, the nice thing about having a small team that's very capable and very nimble is we can move quickly. And we're working with companies that are very big, that take a long time to do things. So once we get them fully engaged with us, we try and make them keep up with us to push them as well, because being small and innovative really helps them do things uniquely and more quickly than they probably would on their own.
Okay, before I get to asking you about the rest of 2025, we should mention that you had a new order as well from another Global 500 company.
Yeah, we've been really targeting some of these key applications where we're an enabling technology, things like solid state circuit breakers for utility and industrial products. We actually now have engaged with our third Fortune 500 global company that's focused on things like bringing circuit breakers and circuit protection to the marketplace, and they need a very efficient semiconductor technology to make that work. And we actually fit that bill really well, because our utility infrastructure, not just here in the US, but around the world, needs an enormous investment to accommodate all the EV charging that's going in, all the distributed energy like solar and wind that's going in. And we think we're pretty uniquely positioned to help bring solutions that are going to benefit from that investment in our utility infrastructure.
And finally, Dan, obviously the stuff you're talking about will continue obviously for the rest of this year specifically, but I would imagine there's a lot of things that the company is looking at really at accomplishing over the next 3 quarters.
Yeah, this year I think is a pretty important one for us. We've got several customers that are evaluating our technology. We hope to be able to announce some additional design wins with those customers. We hope to be able to start naming some of them, because some of them are very big companies whose names people would recognize. We look to get through our auto qualification and then get fully launched in this next program that we're doing with Stellantis. So 2025 looks like it's going to be a pretty important year for us, because we also expect to start ramping our revenue here in the second part of the year.
Exciting times ahead, Dan. Really appreciate you letting us know how the year's gone off to a really strong start, and we look forward to our next conversation. Okay. All
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Steve.
right, Dan Bedard, the CEO of Ideal Power.